Hello to all you seekers of the sinister. Grab your shovels and prepare to dig in. I have some grave news for you. Tonight's top story is about some genre influencers that believed in the scientific method of fuck around and find out. You bleep that. I can't say fuck. Well, you know how much I love your little rules. We'll see who's yelling out what when I get out of here and wear your entrails like a fucking scarf while your still hot blood pumps through your lower intestines to keep me warm. When you hear how the dumb fucking kids in this story end up, just fucking know that it is nothing compared to the way I'll rip the flesh from your bones while you scream for your fucking mother. We'll see just how hard-nosed you are on the whole no swear words at the dinner table then. As I was saying, tonight's top story is about some post-grad clout chasers who were willing to risk it all for a little ad revenue. This story does get a little graphic, so viewer anticipation is advised. Cue the intro. This group of 20-somethings had decided to brave the night in an unwelcoming small town. Their intention was to film the latest haunted house adventure for their YouTube channel. This was to be the 7th abandoned house they were exploring in their series entitled Homes Better Left Alone. After having scaled a recently constructed barbed wire fence, the self-proclaimed Scary Mary set up her phone. Her breath was visible in the chill air as she began recording their intro. The latest derelict building, the Porter House, stood sentinel behind her, unaware it was set to be demolished the following day. Mary conveniently omitted the fence jumping from her opening monologue to avoid incriminating evidence, while spine-chill Will stood fumbling with the damaged lock off camera. Oh, whoever thought of these names deserves to be disemboweled. The third member of the unfortunately named trio, Paul Cabal, that's not bad, gave his usual color commentary on the situation, earning a vicious glare from Scary Mary as she was forced to restart her opening monologue to make sure Paul's snarky quips weren't picked up in the background. Will and Paul shared a smile, knowing Mary would complain later that she was scowling during the entire opening sequence. Will gestured to Paul and pointed out where he thought they should set up for the next shot. There was an old staircase that could be seen through the open doorway inside, perfect for Mary to walk down from the upstairs. The old house certainly offered no objections. Mary's voice wavered slightly as she recounted the legend of Porter House. Built by an eccentric couple believed to be cultists, the house was said to be a gateway to demonic dimensions, complete with chaotic runes etched into its walls. The infamous couple was notorious for their brutal rituals. Legend had it that they would kidnap, torture, and sacrifice anyone they found out wandering alone after dark. The couple was rumored to have been traveling to nearby towns and cities where the homeless and destitute populations were higher and less likely to be missed. No one knows how many souls truly passed through the doors of the Porter House, never to walk out again. It is said that the Porters only got caught because they were getting too old to keep up the guys any longer and took someone too close to home. Scary Mary felt a whisper of unease as she ascended the front steps and approached the threshold where so many had gone before. She tried to hide it by panning her little camera over the metal framework around the entryway, not understanding at all the complex symbols etched into the cold iron. It was the way she had stopped narrating that prompted Paul to place a comforting hand on her shoulder as he walked past and was the first to enter the Porter House. The air inside was unnervingly still as if the house detested every sound. It was oppressive. It almost seemed to be resistant and heavier to move. It weighed on you, or was it the broken house itself pulling at you? Mary recalled a rather dramatic piece of the Porterhouse lore that said the feeling was the tormented spirits reaching out to drag anyone in the house down to join them in the darkness. She was looking at the stained and scratched floorboards as Paul came lunging out of the shadows beneath the stairwell. This was a favorite pastime of his, no matter how unfunny it was. He would argue that it helped Mary get in the scary mood. Mary responded with the double birds and some words I apparently can't repeat on here. Annoyed, she split off to go find her own area to explore. After a quick tour of the first floor of the house, the trio of brilliant chill-seekers decided the basement held the most promise of footage for the little show. The decaying wood of the stairs made a dubious promise of a safe descent, while the stark lights played over the partially destroyed brick walls. As they descended, Mary caught the hint of a reflection emanating from behind the mortar and clay. Getting a closer look, she could see it was a repeating pattern of sharp angles interlaced between spirals of twisted metal. It was hard to focus in the poor conditions, and the noise from the boys was decidedly distracting. She wasn't sure what they were whispering about so furiously, but when she turned to tell Will and Paul to shut, the words died on her lips as she realized no one was there. She was alone. A trickle of cold sweat seemed to slide down her spine as she began to look for her friends. Annoyed at the potential prank, but uneasy to be alone in the house, she started with frantic whispers that quickly grew louder and louder. Eventually, the boys' muffled voices from upstairs were calling down to tell her to keep quiet. Mary was ready to lay into the boys when she found them, but was stopped short by Paul putting up a hand and motioning at her. This began to infuriate her more until she heard the sounds as well. Unsettling thumps and thuds, almost like footsteps that seemed to travel erratically around the house. Will had been mid-sentence saying it had to be Mary until they all began to hear it again, and Mary was definitely not making it. Meeting each other's eyes in the small room, they came to the realization that they were not alone in the house. The silence that followed was thick and almost tangible. They exchanged uneasy glances, with the tension breaking when Paul finally shook his head and mouthed a resolute, "No." He refused to investigate further, his face pale and eyes darting nervously. Paul was all for scaring others, but was not a fan of the feeling himself. How delicious. Mary and Will proceeded alone, cautiously towards the source of the sound. Further down the long hallway, they entered what was once a bedroom. Warped boards told of years of water damage. A shattered window faced the dense woods behind the house, and a broken section of brick wall revealed more iron glyphs seemingly untouched by time. The strange, sharply chiseled sigils gleamed as their phone lights panned over. It was a rustling sound behind them that snapped their attention around. They found a small bird flapping and fluttering amidst the broken glass and detritus, its nest visibly wedged in between the bricks. Will had intended to pick the small bird up until he got closer and could see something was definitely wrong with it. Its neck appeared twisted at an odd angle. Looking into the nest, he could see the eggs all appeared warped and broken. Will and Mary shared an embarrassed chuckle as the broken bird began jumping and flattering again, making a recognizable, irregular thumping sound. The nervous laughter continued down the hallway as they returned back to find Paul missing again. A shared sigh of frustration grew into worry as each moment passed without some sort of response to their call. No footsteps, no jump scares. Mary began to suggest Paul might have gone back out to the car when a loud crack and thump sounded from the direction of the basement. Will swore loudly and quickly ran back downstairs with Mary in tow. The basement doorway's eerie openness felt like a trap. Will reluctantly led the way, his camera light sharply piercing the enveloping darkness. The basement was a shrine to destruction. Dark stains marred the scarred and broken concrete floor. the dark brown and reddish hues the only colors against the gray concrete. The angular design from the house's iron skeleton was on full display here. A centerpiece to the room displayed the design plainly, untouched by the decay that otherwise plagued the floor and walls. The phone lights shifted the basement shadows into odd patterns around the room. They seemed to twist and slide in Mary's vision. As she attempted to focus, she saw it, a face. Covered in red, rising within the shadowed darkness. The porters. The mask was likely part of their sick rituals. Mary and Will sprinted up the stairs, breathless and frantic. Mary led the way, her heart racing as she glanced back. The mask began opening grotesquely, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Spider-like legs, almost serpentine in their movement, pulled the creature along the walls and in pursuit. She was so close to the top when Mary felt her foot crash through one of the rotten wooden steps of the stairwell. The pain was sharp as the splinters of wood tore along her calf. Her shin slammed against the stair above her as her hands clawed into the iron and brick walls on either side to try and save her from falling. She felt a tearing sensation in her hips and legs as Will crashed into her from behind. They seemed to fly up the final remainder of the stairwell. Her cries of pain were quickly silenced as her head impacted the iron framework of the doorway as they launched into the hall within feet of the front door. Mary finally awakened with a jolt. Pain surged through her from the scrapes and cuts she could feel in her arms and face. Her hands shook, and she saw that she must have torn out several nails attempting to claw into the basement brick. Looking around, a cold shiver gripped her as she saw Will lying nearby, bloodied and twitching just at the threshold of the basement doorway. His phone was thrown out in front of him, lying face down on the hallway floor, its light pointed at the ceiling. Panic gripped her, and she froze as the creature flashed into and out of the edges of the small beacon of light. It clawed and thrashed at an unseen barrier where the basement door had been. The iron frame screamed as the creature lashed against the barrier over and over. The sounds of overstressed metal trying not to break. The clay bricks housing the frame began to burst and crack loudly as the sigils overheated and burned their way through. The purpose of the iron cage framework below was becoming horrifyingly clear. Mary pleaded with Will to get up, her voice trembling. They needed to get away. They needed to warn others, to ensure the town knew that the house was never to be demolished. The cage was never to be broken. Her voice was only coming out as a frail whisper, and it wasn't until the creature stopped charging against the barrier that she could hear how pitiful her pleas were. Her hopes rose as Will began to stir, but were quickly plunged into despair as she realized his movements were simply the creature drawing him back into the basement, as his feet were still within its boundary. He must have finally come to in the darkness, because he began to scream as the creature began to feed. Crying out in pain and frustration, Scary Mary knew that if the people were to be warned not to destroy the house, she was the last one left who could warn them. As she attempted to stand was when it finally dawned on her that she couldn't feel her legs. Her whole body was shaking as she attempted to lift herself up. Twisting around, she could see that her left leg was missing from the knee down, and the blood was coming out slower and slower as she watched. She would need to crawl. She needed to warn everyone, someone, anyone. Mary attempted to crawl across the floor to chill Will's phone, but the cold was spreading, and the darkness was closing in. Eyewitness testimony on that story brought to you by Scary Mary herself. The viewers would like to know, was it worth the views? Oh right, you didn't get any, because you died. So I guess they'll be my views now. Excellent journalism. To the residents of whatever town that was, I guess I'll be seeing you soon. Those of you still out there in the land of the living, At what point would you have left? Or have some of you idiots already gone into houses you shouldn't have? Keep yourself safe from monsters by hitting that subscribe button, preferably violently, to stay informed of the newest stories, and the like button to let the algorithm demons know to pass along the newest breaking grave news. The wood shards are a nice upgrade. You're looking more Bloody Mary now. Too bad she has a hell of a trademark on that name on this side of things.